welcome back to the House of Her show, a space for honest conversations about healing, womanhood, grief, identity shifts, and the parts of life that don't come with neat timelines. I'm Megan. Hopefully you're starting to remember my name a little bit more now if you've been watching me a little bit more regularly. But if you're here for the first time as well, welcome. And to all of you guys, I'm really glad you're here today with me. So today I want to talk about boundaries. It's such an important topic, and I know I shied away from the topic for a long time because I was that person who always wanted to please everyone and just be the nice guy. But I also want to talk about boundaries when you're healing, when you're grieving, when you're heartbroken, when you're barely holding it together. And the world still expects you to function like nothing has happened, because boundaries feel very different when you're in survival mode. They don't start from empowerment, they start from necessity. But also, a bit of side news as well, you'll notice my surroundings are a bit different right now. We've got Lula with us as well, who is my friend's dog. And I'm not at home, I'm not in my parents' house, I'm not in Scotland anymore. And I actually filmed this episode before I left as well, but something didn't feel right, and I didn't end up posting it and airing it. So I'm filming it again now here while I'm actually out in Bali. I got here a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, everything that's going on in the Middle East with the missiles, I had to double check I could still come, and I eventually sold my car as well, which allowed me to come as well. So I'm in Bali. The last couple of weeks have been just very, very light, very much needed, I must say. And it's amazing when you're, Lula, when you're going through heartbreak, when you're healing, when you're trying to heal from such trauma and loss as well. Your environment is so important. And my friend told me a quote that you can't heal in the same place that broke you. And it's something that resonated with me so much, because I feel that so much. I struggled in Scotland, I struggled in my hometown with all of the memories and just the sadness and the pain that just was held there. I tried to heal there and I just couldn't. So I'm actually now out in Bali, just trying to start a new chapter, starting to rebuild myself from losing Otis, and trying to find a new way of living, but also be happy within that and finding peace within that. And the last couple of weeks, I'm really starting to feel that shift and to feel that lightness, and it's all because of the environment I'm in. And it's something I'm going to be touching base on in another episode in a couple of weeks' time, because I feel it's so important for healing as well, and expressing that and sharing my journey with you guys who might resonate with it too. But before we carry on with the episode, let's ground ourselves. So if you can get into a place that's comfortable for you, whether that's sitting or standing, whatever is comfortable. Obviously, if you are driving or if you're doing something that needs your full attention, please don't be doing this just for the next couple of minutes, so you don't have any accidents, etc. But if you're able to, and let's start ourselves and ground ourselves ready for this episode. So if you can take a deep breath in for 3, 1, 2, 3, and then hold that with you for the next three seconds as well. 1, 2, 3, and then let's exhale for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and let's do that again, just to try and find that grounding within ourselves, and just to bring awareness into our bodies as well. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And with that in mind, let's think of something that we're grateful for, whether you're listening to this in the morning and you've got your day ahead, or you're listening to this in the evening and you've experienced your day already. If you can pinpoint one thing that you're most grateful for of the day, and really hold that with yourself, and how it makes you feel within your body, but also your mind as well, and the appreciation that comes with that. For me, I am so grateful right now to be here in Bali. After the pain of the last year, or coming up to nearly a year, of losing Otis, and gosh, everything that's happened on the back of that as well, the ripple effect of what has happened since losing Otis as well, with relationships and letting go of a lot of things, etc. I am so grateful to be at a point in my healing journey where I'm feeling at peace with starting to build a new life, starting to rebuild. I know Otis is still with me. I actually was watching a sunset the other night at one of the beaches here, and I saw his face in the clouds, and it was so prominent. I'd just been thinking about him as well, and it just made me feel so content and at peace, knowing that I'm on the right path, and in the right location as well. And I'm so grateful for that I'm able to come to this place to find healing as well. And that's my gratitude. Okay, so one of the first things I noticed after losing Otis was that my tolerance changed. The things I used to brush off due to people pleasing, letting things go, not wanting to upset people, suddenly felt I just couldn't personally cope with it. And being needing constantly felt so overwhelming for myself, and even explaining myself felt so exhausting. People complaining and being negative around me, I just wasn't there for that anymore. And I didn't want that projection when I was internally battling my own mental health and depression because of loss. And I remember thinking, what is wrong with me? But at that time, nothing was wrong with me. Reflecting back, my nervous system was simply recalibrating. So in Healing is the New High by Vex King, he talks about how healing isn't about becoming better, it's about becoming more aware of yourself, within yourself as well, more aware of your thoughts, your surroundings, your environment, your relationships, being more intentional in life as well. And by having this awareness, it changes what you're willing to tolerate. You don't suddenly have less patience because you're being so dramatic. You have less tolerance because you've experienced something far deeper. You've experienced what actually does matter in life, how time should be prioritised over anything else, and what truly lights you up and makes you happy. When trauma cracks you open, you literally cannot unknow it. And there's a guy called Dr. Gabor Maté, if I'm pronouncing that right. He speaks about trauma not being the event itself, but what happens inside you as a result of it. So after trauma or deep grief, your nervous system is scanning constantly for safety. You're more sensitive to tone, you're more sensitive to judgment, and you're more sensitive to emotional demand. And because your system is already so overloaded, what once felt manageable now feels so threatening. So when someone minimises your pain, even casually, your body doesn't interpret that as more discomfort. It interprets it interprets it as unsafety. And this is when boundaries can stop being optional and become more protective within your space instead. When I lost Otis, I grieved in a way that felt right for me. That meant being really selective with who I leaned on for healing. It meant travelling because movement gave me space to breathe and escape. It meant needing quiet. It meant disappearing at times because mentally I could not handle constant contact and people projecting their emotions and expectations onto me. This led to some people understanding, but it also led to some people not. And for me, during my experience of losing Otis, after that I heard comments like, it's just a dog, you're okay, don't be silly, you're playing games. And as you can imagine, and you might have already experienced this yourself in a different context, but this is not what you want to hear, not in any context, especially when you've lost your soul dog. It's very mean and it's very unempathetic. And when I also opened up about having suicidal thoughts, I felt so judged instead of supported. Not by everyone. Majority of people reacted in a way which did support me, but there are some who didn't. And people turned my need to disappear to abate them, projecting their expectations of me to get in touch with them and pretend to be fine. I experienced loved ones being annoyed and angry with me, talking behind my back, and when I opened up to them about saying how I was feeling and being very vulnerable with feeling suicidal as well, instead of having the comments of "I'm here for you," I had the comments of "you're playing games," and that really affected me. It was really hard. I'm not going to cry in this episode, but it was really hard, and it really made me take a step back and reflect on my life and my priorities and my boundaries in with that as well. So if you've experienced the same, know that that's really not okay. Not okay at all. At that point, I was in survival mode, carrying shock, trauma, guilt, and grief simultaneously. The last thing I had capacity for was defending my pain. And this, as I say, this made me step back even more. I felt so misunderstood, and this wasn't to punish anyone, but it was a way for me to survive at that time and lean on people who could empathise, who could support me how I needed, instead of people who simply couldn't. And following on from this, pet loss, I personally feel, after the experience I've had with grieving Otis, is massively misunderstood. And people can be very opinionated on the topic. It breaks my heart to see people struggling with grief, trauma, and loss from losing a pet, and they've had nothing but judgment for the way they've grieved. Why? That's not support. It's cold, it's mean, and honestly not the type of person you want in your life either. And yes, I've heard a lot of comments like, it's not a human, it's not like you losing a human, but the relationships we have with our animals can be so deep that the loss that we experience when we do lose them, depending on your circumstances as well, if you've got trauma involved in that as well, it's a heartbreak like no other I've experienced. It's so painful and deep. So Brené Brown, again, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, explains that guilt is feeling bad about something you did, while shame is feeling bad about who you are. When you set boundaries while healing, guilt often appears when we've been conditioned to believe that being available equals being good. Women are taught to be agreeable, to be understanding, to be accessible, to be supportive. So when you say "I can't," your body reacts as if you're breaking a rule, the same way as when we say no, we feel guilt behind it. But needing less doesn't mean caring less. It means your capacity has changed, and capacity does change after trauma. So let's talk about boundaries versus avoidance. This part is important. So boundaries are not the same as avoidance. Avoidance says, "I won't feel this," whereas boundaries say, "I won't let this make it worse." Avoidance disconnects you from your emotions, whereas boundaries create safety so you can actually process them. That difference really matters. So imagine you're grieving and someone invites you out. You know if you go, you'll spend the whole night pretending you're fine. You'll smile, you'll nod, you'll come home exhausted and cry in the shower. I know, because I've been there as well. But if you cancel, you feel guilty. You imagine them judging you. You fear losing the connection, so you go. And then that becomes self-abandonment. Instead, the boundary version might sound like, "I'm not up for tonight, I love you, but I just need some space right now." And obviously when you're struggling or grieving in your life, this doesn't mean to completely switch off and not be social, to be lonely. But there are some days and periods where it is necessary to keep to yourself, to build yourself back up, to protect your energy and your space, and to try and fill your cup back. So we talk about boundaries with other people, but sometimes the most important ones are internal as well. And by this, I mean not rereading painful messages, delete them if needed. I know I had to delete a lot of messages. Not replaying conversations, not doom scrolling, especially if it might trigger you, not engaging in self blame spirals, not going back to a relationship that wasn't healthy for you. In a book called Atomic Habits, James Clear explains how identity shifts happen through repeated action. Every time you choose not to reopen a wound, your brain learns, I can protect myself. And this then builds your self-trust. And self-trust is what trauma often fractures. And boundaries with yourself are one thing, but there's also the everyday stuff that genuinely changes your nervous system. And when I talk about self-trust and trauma affecting this or loss, so with my personal experience with Otis, obviously Otis was with a pet sitter, and my self-trust has been completely like just down on the floor because of it. So I obviously put Otis in with a pet sitter. I'd met her beforehand. I thought that I trusted my intuition and trusted her as well. And then obviously on the back of that, he then passed away. And that's really affected me with trusting others, trusting my own judgment, and just trust in a lot of things. And I'm finally trying to build my self-trust back up and my decision making, etc. as well. And you might have a similar story, you might have something that can relate to this, and it's really important to be able to start gaining that self-trust within yourself again. So something else I've realised through healing is that boundaries aren't always big. They're often really small, practical things that will protect your nervous system going forward. So one thing I started doing quite a while ago and have actually done continuously since is archiving certain WhatsApp chats. As I say, I did this a long time ago anyway, but I've done it even more so since experienced the loss of Otis. It seemed like such a small change to do, but I started doing it at the time because I felt so overwhelmed in life, and these notifications gave me so much anxiety. I noticed such a change within myself. So once I implemented this, and such a shift in my energy as well. And when I started, I thought to myself, am I being a little bee for doing this? But at the time I was like, also, no, I need to do this for my protection and my sanity. So work chats, group chats, certain conversations that constantly pulled my attention. In fact, the only chats now from today, well, not from today, for quite a while now, that aren't archived in WhatsApp format are my immediate family chats. And this isn't because I don't care about the people I have archived, but because constant notifications can make your brain feel like it's always on alert. Every time your phone lights up, your body reacts. You don't switch off. And when you're healing, grieving, or just struggling in life, on top of this, that constant stimulation can make anxiety worse without you even realising. Archiving those chats means they're still there when you're ready to look at them, but they're not sitting at the top of your screen demanding your energy each time a message comes through. You can choose to go in when you want to, when you feel like you've got the energy for it. And I actually met with one of my friends a few weeks ago, and she actually told me that she started doing this too with her work chats now, after I told her a little while ago that I do this personally and have put those boundaries in place. So she works shifts, but messages will come through before her shift even started with staffing updates, problems, last minute changes. And she realised she was starting every day already stressed before she even clocked in. So by archiving those chats, she gave herself a boundary between work and her personal life. And it changed how she felt walking into work and also in her home life amongst her family and friends as well. So sometimes boundaries are as simple as controlling what has access to your attention. Another place boundaries show up is with people. So think about the friends you spend time with. Have you ever noticed that some people leave you feeling lighter? You say goodbye and you feel so energized, you feel seen, you feel so uplifted. And then there are other people where after spending time with them, you feel completely drained. Your energy drops, your mind feels so tired, your body feels tired, like you just want to go back home and have a nap. So once you start bringing awareness to it all, you'll start to notice who shifts your energy. And this doesn't automatically mean those people are bad, but it does give you information. And healing sometimes requires adjusting how much access certain people have to you. This doesn't mean cutting everyone off, but it does mean starting to consider creating healthier limits. Maybe that means seeing them less often. Maybe it means shorter conversations. Maybe it means not sharing your deepest emotions with someone who can't physically hold them. So boundaries are about protecting your energy, not punishing anyone. You kind of have to be selfish with your energy to keep yourself mentally well. And this applies in so many small ways in daily life. So turning notifications off after a certain time, putting your phone on D&D. Mine is pretty much always permanently on D&D these days. Not replying immediately to every message. Choosing when you are available instead of always being reachable. Leaving conversations that feel emotionally heavy or draining. Saying I'll come back to this later instead of forcing yourself to respond when you're overwhelmed. And if you want a quick few examples to steal, here are some boundaries that have helped me or people close to me recently. So one, I had to mute Instagram accounts early on with my pet loss with Otis that had anything related to dogs, because it used to trigger and set me off so much. Two, not answering calls when you're emotionally exhausted. I don't have the capacity to talk about that today, or I can't hold this conversation right now. Number three, protecting mornings or evenings as quiet time, and that's just to allow your energy to fill up back up again. Number four, not explaining your loss to people who minimise it. A boundary doesn't need a paragraph. Sometimes it's just I can't. Together these protect your nervous system, and when you're healing, your nervous system deserves that protection. So if you're feeling overwhelmed or grieving or going through a difficult time right now, have a think about the boundaries you may need to help you through this heavy period as well, and what you can start putting in place from today. Healing can also bring anger to the surface, and as women, we can be very uncomfortable with anger, especially if we're the people pleasers of this world. But anger isn't often just a boundary signal. It's your body saying that hurt, or that wasn't okay, or I don't want that again. So instead of suppressing it, I'd recommend getting curious about it as well. Understand where it's stemming from so that you can put that boundary in place to protect you in future situations. So I'd like to drop in some more recommendations to help you through this topic. Aside from Healing is the New High by Vex King, a few others speak about this beautifully as well, and I'd recommend all of these books. So you've got The Mountain Is You, Brianna Wiest. She talks about how we stay in familiar discomfort because it feels safer than unfamiliar peace. That's often why we avoid boundaries, because they literally disrupt our familiarity. Set Boundaries, Find Peace by Nedra Glover Taywab. Again, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. This reframes boundaries as a communication rather than rejection. Worthy by Jamie Kern Lima. So many boundary struggles come back to worthiness. If you don't believe you're worthy of protection, you'll keep overextending yourself. Worthy is one of my all-time favourite books, so I'd really recommend reading that one as well. And I'll drop these into the description below this podcast so you can refer back to them later on. So have a think. If you're in a hard season, ask yourself gently, where do I feel resentment building? Where do I feel drained after interaction? What small boundary could make that situation easier? What conversations make me feel tense? Where am I pretending I'm okay? And what feels heavier than it used to be? This is all information for yourself. And if someone reacts poorly to your boundaries, that tells you something too. In fact, it tells you everything. And please normalise walking away. If someone makes healing harder, it's not you being cruel. You're respecting yourself enough to know that it's not okay and that you do not deserve that. If someone minimises your grief, stepping back isn't dramatic. If someone judges your coping mechanisms, protecting your space isn't selfish. Grieve how your mind and body need. We're all different and we all have our own ways of grieving and coping. Friends and family should respect that. So heal how your nervous system asks. You don't owe access to your pain. I personally had to walk away from a lot of relationships because of it. As we have come to the end of this podcast, I want to leave you with today's house key. You're allowed to protect your peace while you rebuild your strength. Boundaries are not walls, they are doors with locks you're allowed to use. So if this resonated with you, if you felt misunderstood in your healing, if you've carried grief for needing space, I hope this softens something for you. You're not difficult, you're recalibrating. Please don't forget to like, share and comment on the House of Her Spotify and YouTube accounts and send love. I've also got my Instagram, House of Her Show as well. And until next time, take a breath. Be gentle with yourself and trust what your body is asking for. Sending so much love your way, and thank you again for joining me today.